So as this room is kind of full of e-commerce practitioners, we'd like to kind of bring the conversation from the 20,000 mile route right down to what's happening now. And we have Neil Stewart, who's CEO of Salmon. Neil has been with Salmon for 15 years, and he's been working with some of the biggest brands across the world over that period on developing e-commerce strategies, and more importantly, actually implementing them to make them work. Neil.
Thank you. Thanks for the 15 years. Take that out the next one. Look old enough as it is. Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. Before we start, I'm kind of overwhelmed by the attendance we've got today. We expected about 50 people, and we've just got over 200. So thanks very much. It must be down to the budget you spent on the marketing, Patrick. Okay. So I've been asked to pick out some key digital trends moving forward to 2020, and to try and shape that, because we've got lots of different people from lots of different markets here. I thought we'd pick a little bit on some lessons from yesterday, so specifically what we saw during Black Friday. And the reason being is we think some of the behaviours we see during major events actually then start to become normal in the e-commerce landscape moving forward. What we're seeing today, specifically around two key commerce experiences we think are starting to establish themselves in the market, mainly driven by the huge investment that some of the big boys are putting into logistics and delivery. And then the exciting bit, which is our point of view on the future. So Martin touched on it before, but we have a point of view around what we think the biggest trend is going to be in the e-commerce landscape moving up to 2020. Okay. So Black Friday, what do we think? Well, we actually think this was the first year that it worked from a consumer perspective. We saw less of the image we see there in 2014, which upset my kids because they enjoyed that whole day watching YouTube of northern people, and I can say being a northern person fighting over a TV, compared to what we see now in 2015. And there was a couple of major reasons behind that. I think retailers did a great job at communicating that offers were the same online as offline, and that's got into the consumer psyche. Pretty much delivery worked, so the promise was delivered, pickup was good, and consumers gained confidence in that. And that was really down to the early operational testing that lots of the organisations in the UK did this year. The big insight that we saw, I'm trying to see if John's in the room. John's not here, but the guy who runs our managed services department. We saw a huge spike in orders between midnight and 1 in the morning on the day of Black Friday. And when we dug into that a little bit deeper and looked at the analytics, what we saw, consumers were adding products to both wish lists and the basket, either staying up to 1 o'clock in the morning, or if you're old like me and you've got kids, rolling out of bed at midnight when the offer comes online, and checking out the order and going back to bed. So, as I say, more 2015 than 2014. So in terms of orders, the impact meant online, Black Friday year on year, was up 28%, compared to only 3% on the high street. And that's in the UK. But the biggest stat that we saw came from the NRF. And what they announced in December, in the USA, in 2015, this was the first year on Black Friday where more people shopped online than they did in store, which we think is a hell of a statement. When you take on how long physical retail's existed in the US compared to digital retail, we think that potentially is a tipping point in the market. And because of that, and I know this isn't new news to everyone, but we just think it's accelerated the process. We think this is going to have profound implications for the role of the store moving forward to 2020. So we don't think they'll be the primary destination for consumption anymore. And on top of that, we think they'll support the online and digital journey as opposed to the other way around. We were a bit bold this year. I don't know if anyone saw the press, but we went out quite early and said we thought this Black Friday would break the billion this year. Everyone thought we were bold and we thought we were taking a risk, but we weren't. Based on the data that we had from our clients and the market research, we were pretty confident on that, and that came to be true. This year, we're going to go a bit bolder. Across the 5 days that Black Friday's now become, we think there's a potential break in the 5 billion mark. And I suppose the message to take from the slide is be prepared for that. Okay, so what's happening today? Well, we think there's basically two major commerce experiences starting to establish themselves successfully in the UK and the European market. The first one's transaction-based, and the second one is inspiration and knowledge-based. So what do we mean by that? Well, transaction is where the offer is focused solely on the size of the catalogue, so the number of products, price points against the competition, and more increasingly, the capability to deliver or pick up in a convenient way. And of course, the poster child here is Amazon. So Amazon now has, in the US, over 320 million items available to order. They're making huge investments in terms of grocery. So large in the US, just started in the UK, both in ambient and non-ambient products. But the biggest investment they're making at the moment is around what has been traditionally the B2B space. So B2B transactions, whether it be for hardware or non-physical goods, they're starting to invest in dramatically. And they're doing that in a way that the customer experience is still able to check out in on average 48 seconds time. Okay, so we weren't sure what image to use for Amazon. We decided we'd go for the cuddly monster. So what do you do about Amazon? Well, we think you've got three options. You can either partner with them and utilize Amazon's delivery capability and customer access, but be very, very aware you're going to be educating them on your product base and your customer base. You can compete by creating your own category-focused marketplace, and we're helping a number of our clients do that. That enables you to monetize the traffic that exists on your site, but also gain insight into how consumers are behaving. Or thirdly, you can compete on differentiation of both product and experience, which takes us to the next major commerce offer we think is happening in the market today, which is inspiration-led. We know shopping's not all about convenience, and it's not all about a quick transaction. Shoppers still want to be engaged, whether it be in a physical or non-physical environment. They're inspired to share those experiences with peers, and they want to use that across a multitude of devices and a multitude of touch points. And of course, we needed to pick a poster child in this arena. Shamelessly, we picked Selfridges. Simon's smiling. It's one of our clients, plus Simon's going to touch a little bit later on the digital journey they've been as a business. And why have we picked those out? Well, they've invested quite a lot of money for a traditional business in integrating their digital offer across all touch points. So they know who you are, no matter where you are. They spend an awful lot of investment in inspirational content. One, to bring people to the digital estate, to drive traffic, but more importantly, to drive purchasing intent, which is a lesson we think most organizations out there can take away. And also, they provide VIP access to products and events that drive traffic back to the digital estate and to the store that no one else can get access to. I mean, this is an image we took earlier this week, I think. We updated. So London Fashion Week. If you Google London Fashion Week and go around the commerce sites that exist, this has by far got the best content. That must have took some early planning and preparation. Okay, so where's the worst place to be between the two? So we've been in the market long enough to know that if your ambition is to take on the big boys and have convenience, price, and offer in terms of scale, but you fail, or you try and inspire a consumer and you don't provide the right level of advice and content, then the chances are the consumer will go to each of the parameters and you'll lose that customer for life. So how do you stop that happening? Well, we think there's three key ways to do that. The first one is to use data. So data to give you insight into how the consumer is behaving, but also to personalize that journey solely for them, to make it an inspirational journey. IBM are going to touch on that later as part of the breakout session. You can use content to both bring traffic to the site, but also create that purchasing intent. And our friends at Adobe are going to spend a little bit of time touching on that later also. And the third is look at delivery not solely around speed and convenience. This can be a compelling experience and something that buys the consumer into you and your offer. Okay, so we spent a little bit of time looking at Black Friday and the lessons that's given us and some of the trends we think that's going to cause moving forward. A little bit of time on what we think is happening in the market today. And we wanted to come forward what we think is the biggest trend moving forward in the digital commerce space to 2020. So we've came up with a name for it. We've called it Programmatic Commerce. We've actually come up with a definition as well. And apologies for this, but this is what happens when a set of techies get in a room together. Our definition is where consumers and businesses allow technology to make purchase decisions on their behalf based on pre-programmed parameters and learned preferences. That's quite difficult to say, and I know quite difficult to take in within the first statement. So we've pulled together a video, which we'll touch on in a minute, that should make it a little bit clearer. But why now for programmatic commerce? Well, we've seen from the presentation before the proliferation of intelligent devices. So they're landing and they're establishing themselves in everyone's homes. This, plus consumers, and not just millennials, becoming increasingly comfortable to share their data with people they trust, we think equals consumers' confidence to allow devices to make repeat purchases on their behalf. So we'll play the video now, and then what I'll do is I'll pick out a few of the key themes straight afterwards. Okay, can we play the video?
Morning has broken, and so has Robert's coffee machine. Motion sensors detect that he's awake, alerting him to the problem, and that an engineer is on their way. The machine informs him that his coffee's running low too, and displays his preferences to automatically replenish his coffee supplies. In the kitchen, Robert is recognised by the fridge's beacon technology and presented with a status update on its contents. Other products they've run out of have been automatically added to the family's grocery store app. So it takes Robert's wife Sally just a second to confirm the order. Driving to work, Robert selects voice recognition and starts a conversation with the car's digital assistant, which alerts him to his son's upcoming birthday. Based on this son's profile, the digital assistant displays a great idea for a gift, which Robert chooses to order and have sent along with the family grocery delivery. As Robert continues his drive, automatic sensors in his car tyres detect they'll need replacing soon, and relay this information back to the manufacturer's database. This intelligence enables the manufacturer to anticipate demand for tyres right across the country and allocate stock accordingly to the areas that need it. Both the groceries and Robert's son's present are delivered right on time and safely left in the family car, with access to the boot enabled via secure PIN technology, and all confirmed via the delivery driver's smartphone. Welcome to the world of programmatic commerce, where technology takes the trouble out of repetitive purchases.
Okay, so that's hopefully explained it a little bit clearer. Patrick or I weren't allowed to do the voiceover on that due to our accents. We were barred. I don't know. I hope not. Okay, so let's pick out some of the key things. So the first one is, we think the consideration path to a number of products, specifically in the FMCG space, will reduce. So today, people make a choice each time they choose the product. In the future, based on a set of parameters, we think people will be happy to pass that decision over to machines, thus saving them a lot of time. And what's the impact of that? Well, if you're in the FMCG space or you own a product, we've been kicking around the concept of lock-in, lock-out. So if you've managed to lock your product into that selection, then great, you hold that customer for an extended purchasing cycle. If you don't and you're locked out, then the ability to get that customer back becomes increasingly costly and difficult. The second is the role of the digital assistant. So we know there's a fight in the market at the moment across Apple and across Google, etc., become the digital assistant of choice. But we absolutely think they're going to establish themselves in the market and people will get confidence in them. And the impact of that, consumers and B2B buyers will allow digital assistants to filter results on their behalf. And we think that will fundamentally change the way that we use and see search and browse today. And finally, from demand creation to anticipation. So the example that we used in the video was the tyres automatically updating the tyre replacement outlet. A booking was due within 2 or 3 weeks' time. Now presently, organisations have to stock for the potential of that. requirements. Moving forward, data will inform them earlier. The potential impact of that could be far-reaching and massive. If we think about anticipated ordering, it could potentially balance supply and demand, and more importantly, provide huge efficiency gains for both supply chains and manufacturing. So what does it mean for your business? Well, if you're in the B2B space, we think more sales will be automated. So if we use the example of sensor-based replenishment, and the salesperson will be more about setting up the initial relationship and then configuring the rules for the future. For FMCG, and this is big, we think the shopper marketing mix will absolutely need to be reviewed. So moving forward, having your product chosen at the point of configuration, we think will be more important than where it sits on a shelf. And finally, for retailers, the consideration path will change based on the support of digital assistants, and defining and understanding your role within that will be pretty key. So before I let you go, 3 things to take away. First one, peak's going to be bigger than ever. Whether you agree with our 5 billion or you don't, it's going to be big. Start preparing now. Secondly, everyone needs to recognise that Amazon isn't staying only in retail. It's moving into branded products, it's moving into B2B, it's moving into grocery. Have a strategy and understanding how you're going to deal with that. And thirdly, spend some time looking at the impact of programmatic commerce on your business and how you can use that for both opportunities and threats. So it's just for me to say thanks. Thanks everyone again for attending. It's great that you took the time out of your busy diaries. Myself and the team will be around to answer any questions you have during the rest of the day. Thanks.
Thanks, Neil. Hang on there. See you, Darren.
Cool.
Yeah.